I think he's a very smart trainer, and he gets it. He's passionate, but he just, I think some people take advantage of his weakness of being a nice guy, and I think that's what's happened right now. You know,
well, one thing that Dom will be able to say is that my reputation has been enhanced because he rebuilt Daniel. A lot of people had lots of questions about Daniel. He did bring him into a position where he did annihilate Anthony Joshua.
Maybe he needs that fresh start again. He needs someone new in his ear, someone to push him to get that confidence back as well.
Why?
That's why anything. So this Daniel's an athlete. He's a 27-year-old man. If he feels he needs a change, then that's what he's done.
Daniel Dubois has officially parted ways with trainer Don Charles, a move that has immediately sent shockwaves through the boxing world. On the surface, it looks like a typical reset, a fighter dusting himself off after a tough loss and seeking a fresh start with a new voice in the corner. But dig deeper, and this decision feels
hard. I'd like to thank Don Charles for the hard work and effort he's put into me over the last...
less like strategy and more like desperation. After all the time, energy, and belief Don Charles poured into Dubois, the young heavyweight has now turned to Tony Sims, hoping for a career revival. Yet this isn't just another trainer swap. For Dubois, this decision could be the difference between rebirth and
I don't think Don was a captain of that ship. I think the captain of the ship was the dad. So now, whoever Daniel goes to, it needs to be a strong coach to say, Dad, out. I'm training you. You hired me to train your son. That's my job. You don't come and mess up my work. I don't think Don was strong enough or in a position enough to say that.
Lapse. If things don't click under Sims, the pressure on his career will double overnight, leaving him with fewer excuses and even fewer options. Former cruiserweight champion and respected pundit Johnny Nelson wasted no time cutting through the noise. To him, this isn't simply about a fighter wanting change, it's about interference.
Fighters choose you. Then they use you to get where they need to be. Then they accuse you when everything goes wrong. And when they've left and gone somewhere else, then they start to abuse you by doing interviews slagging you off.
From within the Dubois camp, namely Daniel's father. According to Nelson, Don Charles was never truly in control. He may have held the title of head trainer, but the real power sat with Dubois' dad, constantly steering decisions and overriding the authority of the coach. For Nelson, this dynamic has been toxic for years. He insists that if Daniel truly wants a fresh start, it won't come from hiring Tony Sims alone. It will come from
Tony will have his own ideas, you know, I'm not sure. But I'm sure, you know, he'll have some ideas of what he'd like to implement with Daniel. He's an experienced guy, worked with heavyweights before, a lot of time with AJ.
Finding a trainer strong enough to shut down the family drama once and for all. Without that, history will repeat itself. Trainer Dominic Ingle echoed that sentiment with even sharper criticism. He didn't mince words, pointing out the recurring pattern with fighters like Dubois. In Ingle's eyes, these fighters happily take everything from their trainers, time, dedication, and expertise, but when the results go south, they shift the blame and walk away. He suggests Dubois has fallen right into that mold. By sacking Don Charles, Daniel may believe he's removing the obstacle holding him back. But according to Ingle, all he's really done is expose himself to even greater scrutiny, because now the excuses are gone. If he falters again, the spotlight will burn squarely on him and no one else. Even Ben Davison, known for...
You know, once you start beating guys of that level, you're there or thereabouts for the world title fights. And I think our goal this time next year would be to be boxing for a world title.
And the thing is with like British or European title fights, even if a fighter is that good, there's still belts you kind of want on the mantelpiece, right? There's still belts that you can appreciate even if they are stepping stones in quotes as such.
For measured takes, couldn't ignore the pressure surrounding this switch. Davison chose a more neutral tone, recognizing Tony Sims' wealth of experience, particularly with heavyweights like Anthony Joshua. But he also underlined a brutal reality. No trainer can fix a fighter's mentality overnight. A coach can devise strategies, improve technical flaws, and refine a fighter's preparation, but the mental toughness required to survive elite-level heavyweight battles comes from within. If Daniel and his father continue to meddle or refuse to listen, even Sims' best-laid plans could unravel before the first bell of the next big fight. Ingle hammered the point home again, taking aim at Dubois' camp for spinning the narrative that Don Charles was the problem in the first place. According to him, blaming Charles for the Usyk defeat is a shallow excuse.
You know, a lot of fighters after a loss, want to sort of jump to a different coach. Maybe he thinks things have got stale. Maybe he wants to change, and I hope he finds what he's looking for. Obviously, Dom wasn't. He lost confidence in what he was bringing to the table. So hopefully, whoever he works with, he gets that additional confidence because he's got a great ability.
Usyk, he argues, was simply too good, a master technician who exposed weaknesses that no coach could have hidden. Ingle warns that if Daniel fails to take responsibility, this same story will play out no matter how many times he switches trainers. Unless Dubois faces his own flaws, the cycle of disappointment will continue. Former world champion David Haye adopted a slightly softer tone but still highlighted the same fundamental issue. For Haye, the problem isn't necessarily about Don Charles or Tony Sims, it's about Dubois himself. He described Daniel as a fighter who keeps running from his problems rather than confronting them. Yes, switching trainers after a loss is common, but Haye believes Daniel's struggles go far deeper than tactical adjustments. His confidence has been shaken, and until he rebuilds that belief, no trainer can carry him through the fire. A coach may bring fresh energy.
Daniel's just put out a statement out in regards to his situation with Don Charles. Don Charles has done a fantastic job for Daniel, but Daniel's decided that he needed a change. And
technical insight, but mental resilience is forged only under pressure in the ring. Haye hopes Dubois can rediscover that inner fire, but he doesn't shy away from admitting the doubts around Daniel's toughness are louder than ever. Sam Jones, who has worked closely with Dubois in the past, added his perspective, revealing inside details about the split. He praised Don Charles, calling him a fantastic trainer who gave his all, but he also acknowledged Daniel's desire for a reset. Jones struck a diplomatic tone, but his words carried an undertone of tension. He admitted that the elephant in the room has always been Daniel's father. By describing him as a passionate man, Jones chose diplomacy, but many insiders interpret that passion as interference. Johnny Nelson had already accused...
Yeah, match him in the best fights, look after him, look after his best interests. And that's what I'll continue to do with Daniel. But like I say, look, people speak a lot about his father. His dad's a passionate man.
Yep.
And that won't change, but I'm being brought in for a reason. All I'll say is just everybody just relax.
Accused Daniel's dad of overstepping, and Jones didn't exactly deny it. Instead, he highlighted the challenge Tony Sims now faces, not just training Dubois, but managing the family dynamics that have disrupted things before. Jones also made it clear that his priority is securing the right fights for Daniel and protecting his career trajectory. Yet his comments subtly reinforced the growing belief across the boxing world that unless Daniel's father steps back, even a top-tier trainer like Sims could find himself handcuffed. If Dubois genuinely wants to become a two-time world champion, he must build a stable environment where the trainer leads and the fighter follows. Anything less will doom him to repeat the same mistakes. Amir Khan added his voice, taking a more supportive stance toward Dubois. He acknowledged that sometimes fighters need a fresh perspective, a new voice to reignite belief. He admitted that a new coach can inject energy and self-confidence into a camp, but
there was something I wasn't happy with in that camp. And as a fighter, some fighters have to do that. Maybe he needs that fresh start again. He needs someone new in his ear. Someone to push him to get that confidence back as well. When you hear it from a different trainer and you hear that you're doing great and you're a great fighter and you're back on top again, that confidence makes a big difference.
McKenzie doesn't sugarcoat it, dumping Don Charles. Even Khan couldn't ignore the bigger picture. Dubois' problem isn't just tactical. His confidence has been fractured, and until he rebuilds it, no change in the corner will matter. Khan warned that outside influences, especially Daniel's father, could derail even the most experienced trainer. If Dubois doesn't take ownership of his own mentality, the change to Sims will be little more than cosmetic. Former world champion McKenzie went straight for the heart of the issue. He described the decision to dump Don Charles as not only rash, but potentially disastrous. Charles, he argued, knew Dubois better than anyone else, his strengths, weaknesses, and the psychological buttons to press when things got tough. Replacing that kind of understanding isn't just about tactics, it's about breaking chemistry built through countless hours in the gym. For McKenzie, the timing made the decision even worse. After a tough loss, the smarter play might have been patience.
He knows the kid inside out.
Yeah.
He knows how he works. He knows all the mechanics behind that kid and how to motivate and get the best out of him. We've seen it. And to get rid of him now at this point, I think it's a bad move.
I agree with you.
I think
Well,
anyone that's going to work
that.
with Dubois, obviously no secret. I don't know his dad. I've never met his dad, but it's obviously no secret that his dad is a heavily influential person in the camp.
Working on mental resilience rather than pressing the reset button. Now Sims is stepping in without that personal knowledge, and the margin for error has shrunk to nearly nothing. If Dubois stumbles again, critics will look back at this moment as the fatal misstep. Paul Smith's assessment was perhaps the most brutal of all. He didn't just question Dubois' choices, he questioned his heart. According to Smith, Daniel has repeatedly failed to show the grit needed to survive deep waters against elite opposition. He cited the Joyce and Usyk fights as glaring examples, moments where Dubois appeared to mentally check out when the pressure peaked. And this, Smith argues, is something no trainer can fix. Grit, toughness, the unshakable will to win. It's either in you or it's not. Sacking Don Charles won't suddenly inject that into Daniel's character. If Dubois wants to silence his doubters, he must prove he can fight through punishment and push past adversity. Without that, the narrative will remain the same. A fighter blessed with...
I think it's beyond saving with him. I think whenever the fight gets hard, we've seen it proven more than once now. He doesn't seem to have that fortitude, that grit, that desire, that mentality of, you're not beating me, I'm going to stick in this and I'm going to outlast you, and that's what.
What do you mean by that?
needed.
I mean, he dug in deep against Hrgovic, didn't he?
He dug in deep against Hrgovic, but then we saw it in the Joyce fight, it wasn't there. We saw it in the first Usyk fight. I felt he could have got up. In the last fight, I felt he could have got up. As soon as the referee got to 10, he gets
talent, but lacking the warrior spirit of an elite champion. Respected boxing journalist Gareth A. Davies also weighed in, strongly defending Don Charles. He argued that the split was unnecessary and unfair. In his view, Charles wasn't the problem in the Usyk fight. Usyk's brilliance was Dubois didn't lose because of poor coaching. He lost because he was outclassed by one of the sport's pound-for-pound greats. Davies believes that blaming Charles is simply avoiding the truth, and now with Sims taking over, the pressure has shifted entirely to Dubois himself. If he doesn't improve, this change will be remembered as just another excuse, and that's the heart of the matter. Dubois' decision to sack Don Charles and bring in Tony Sims has split the boxing world right down the middle. Some see it as a bold reset, a chance to break free from the past and write a new chapter. Others see it as yet another excuse from a fighter who hasn't lived up to expectations when it matters most.
Don Charles, you know, it's a shame that he's got the chop. I thought he was very good for Daniel Dubois. He didn't do anything wrong in that contest with Oleksandr Usyk. It was Dubois' performance. I thought, again, it was down to Usyk's brilliance on the night.
Sims now steps into a role laden with pressure. He must prove not only that Dubois can improve technically, but that he can toughen up mentally under fire. The reality is stark. Don Charles' supporters insist he was never the problem. They argue that Usyk exposed flaws no coach could have hidden. On the other side, Dubois' supporters argue that a fresh voice could be exactly what he needs. But there are no more lifelines left. If Daniel delivers, he can silence his critics and rebuild his reputation. If he crumbles again, this split will haunt him forever. So the question lingers for fans and pundits alike. Is this the rebirth of Daniel Dubois, or the final act in a career defined by excuses? Can Tony Sims unlock the potential that many believe is still there, or will he fall victim to the same pitfalls that plagued Don Charles?